As you know, the Hockey News selected the top 50 players of all time in a recent special edition. And all week long, you've had a chance to vote on our ESPN Sports Zone for your top 10. Those are the top 10 as ranked by the Hockey News. Now, the results will be announced tonight, but you can still vote at ESPN.com and select your top 10. Among those you might choose, his name is Eddie Shore. Few players have ever combined the toughness and skill as did this man. The NHL's first four-time MVP. He was an outstanding two-way defenseman in an era when the backliners rarely joined an offensive rush. One of the first players in National Hockey League history to amass 1,000 penalty minutes in his career, Eddie Shore. He played for a pair of Stanley Cup winners with the Bruins in 1929 and 1939. He was ranked number 10 by the Hockey News, Eddie Shore. One of those, Terry Sawchuk, voted number 9 by the Hockey News, rated by many as the best netminder ever. As tough and as good as between the pipes as anyone had ever been. His death 28 years ago, but the records that he set still stand. Four-time Vezina Trophy winner. He fought constant injury, amassing 447 victories, 103 shutouts, 4 Stanley Cups. 1952, maybe a most memorable moment when he posted a perfect 8-0 record with 4 shutouts in the playoffs. Terry Sawchuk. There's one of the people voted among the top 10 by the Hockey News.
Well, one of them that I want to talk about is Bobby Hull. I played with Bobby. I was able to do that in Winnipeg. He's a great man. He's a physical specimen. He still is at his age now. And he's one of the most charismatic players. Like, he brought people to their feet. He filled buildings. And those are the guys that always paid a lot of money. And he basically saved the WHA. I know the NHL owners didn't like that. Yep. But he's done a lot for hockey. He's been in a lot of controversial places.
He kept the news going, I'll tell you that much. Steve Dryden is the man who's in charge of the Hockey News, and we talked with him about the process in selecting the top 50.
Our objective in assembling the top 50 selection committee was to ensure that all aspects and eras of the game was representative. So we did that by getting ex-players, current and past, coaches, GMs, league executives, media, and hockey historians, which is a really crucial group to make sure that the players from the early eras were represented. I think that Don Cherry, another one of the voters, will have some objections because he is a very big supporter of Bobby Orr, and Wayne Gretzky, of course, prevailed. So I think there's some of that, but for the most part, there's been tremendous acceptance of the list.
Certainly generated interest.
Everybody, I've had about 12 arguments already about this list, so I think it's done what it's supposed to. They're mentioning Bobby Orr. I would have kept him at second because I'm a big believer in Wayne Gretzky. I coached him, so Wayne would have been my number 1 choice. But both Wayne and Bobby Orr changed the game, and I think that's the basic mark of greatness.
You can vote. Remember, ESPN.com. You vote for the top 10 if you would like to, and we are going to announce the results in that poll later on tonight. One of those players you'll be considering, Bobby Hull. He was blessed with great speed and charisma. One of the most intimidating shooters of all time, maybe in NHL history. That blistering slap shot off the left wing, the Golden Jet, became the first player ever to score more than 50 goals in a season. He reached that number of 50 goals 5 times in his career. He remains one of just 8 players to amass 600 goals in his NHL career.
And when he was carrying the puck up the ice, did you see the stick he was using? It had to have about 1.5 inch hook. That's about what he had in the WHA when he played. That created the big shot of his. That created the dipping and diving of the shot. He basically made them change the rules because of the curve in his stick, him and Stan Mikita.
The great Jean Beliveau. You look up class and grace, you're going to see a picture of this guy. Through the list of 500 goal scorers and 1,000 point players, it has grown over the years, but he was the 4th to reach 500 goals and only the second only to Gordie Howe in reaching the 1,000 point mark. 20 seasons. Le Grand Jean dazzled fans in Montreal. 10 of those seasons a key component of Stanley Cup championship teams. Jean Beliveau.
What's interesting about him is he held the NHL hostage. He played in Quebec City as a junior. He wanted to stay in Quebec City. They were in the American League then, the Quebec Aces. He would not go to the Montreal Canadiens. He held out basically from the NHL. He got what he wanted financial-wise, so he was ahead of his time in that situation.
His name is Doug Harvey. The mid-50s to the early 60s, there was little doubt that this guy was the premier defenseman in the National Hockey League. He was a tremendous blue line player, tough as nails, and a very skilled puck-rushing defenseman. He came along with the Bobby Orr kind of look before Bobby Orr. 7-time Norris Trophy winner, 6 Stanley Cups with the Canadiens, and he led the expansion St. Louis Blues to a Cup final in 1968. Recognized as one of the game's great D, Doug Harvey. And no one else ever skated with more passion game in than game out than Maurice Richard, the Rocket. Intimidating opponents with that legendary fire in his eyes, the first player in history to score 500 goals in the National Hockey League. He was the backbone of 8 Stanley Cup championship teams with the Canadiens in an 18-year career. Those last 5 titles came during the Canadiens' record run 56 through 60. And still one of the most wonderful people you'd ever want to meet, the Rocket Maurice Richard.
Gary, he's next to a god in Quebec, by far the most popular French-Canadian that's ever played in the NHL, and there's been a lot of them.
We continue to go through the list of the top 10, the Hockey News, in the voting that was done by their panel to select the best ever in this game. Mario Lemieux is one of those. Barry, you are very familiar with Mario.
Well, you coach against Mario. You try to shadow him. That doesn't work. You try and play Rob Blake against him head-to-head. Rob Blake's a great defenseman. Rob Blake can't handle him one-on-one. You try a line against his. You try matching lines. You try Gretzky against him head-to-head. It's the old corny line. You don't try and stop him. You just try and contain him. Unbelievable talent. The most gifted physically man that's ever played, I feel.
Clearly, there'll be a lot of votes for him at ESPN.com. Remember, you can still vote for this man and anyone else you like. But Mario Lemieux, he brought this great talent to the National Hockey League, as much of it as anyone ever. A career that was hampered, of course, by injuries and illness. Le Magnifique sits atop the all-time list in goals per game and in points per game. 91-92 led the Penguins to consecutive cups. He captured the Conn Smythe Trophy both times, retiring last season, of course, with 6 scoring championships and 3 MVP awards for Mario Lemieux. The game misses him.
I miss him. I love watching this guy play. He's just such a fantastic athlete. So much fun to watch. Again, it's just a shame that he was cut short with injuries, but we'll always have the tapes of him, like just the special goals that he scores.
Now, Barry, among the top 3 in that Hockey News situation, of course, was Mr. Hockey Gordie Howe.
Well, I think now we're getting into the trouble area, Gary, where the arguments are going to start. Howe or Gretzky. Howe is 3, I think, because he was the best in his era. He was the biggest, the strongest, the most goals, the meanest. I think he was the most complete player ever to play.
All right, Gordie Howe, where would you put him among the top 10? ESPN.com. Log on and cast your vote. This guy, obviously, is going to receive a ton of them. Gordie Howe, always and forever Mr. Hockey. To this day, remains an icon in the sports world, a performer for 26 National Hockey League seasons, played till the age of 52, holds the #2 spot all time for goals and points behind Gretzky. In addition, 6 times scoring champion and MVP, left his mark not only in the goals that he scored, but in the way that he played the game. This guy was tough.
Well, I think that's the word you use that makes him different than the other guys ahead of him. Is he was tough, he was physical. I think he was the first power forward to come into the NHL. He was bigger than most guys. He played a very physical game. That's why how many games he played, how many years he played is so surprising and so amazing to me, because he was banging bodies and fighting and scratching and clawing every night. The guy was never hurt. He's just an immense, tough man, was a great player.
And a great guy now and a great ambassador for the game. And remember, you're not limited as to those you can vote for. When you vote ESPN.com, we're showing you the top 10 selected by the Hockey News, but we want your top 10. Log on. We will be announcing the results of that poll later on tonight. We are down to the final 2 to discuss on those selected by that special panel in the Hockey News. One of them, of course, is Bobby Orr. I am from New England, so when I talk about Bobby Orr, pardon me if the reverence shows. There is probably no player who had a greater impact on the game and the position that he played than Bobby Orr. Beginning in '66, he revolutionized the sport as a defenseman who could rush and score with the best of the offensive players in the game. The only defenseman ever to win a scoring title. He did it twice, 70-75. A career cut shot because of injuries, 3-time MVP, the Bruins Stanley Cup 70-72, and a Conn Smythe in both of those seasons. And a legend now, Bobby Orr.
No, and I think the mark of greatness, and that's what separates Gretzky and Orr from the other people, is both of them changed the game. No defenseman joined the rush basically before Orr. None of them led the rush before Orr. He completely did everything different than any other defenseman. Now you've got Bork, now you've got Coffey, now you've got other defensemen doing what Bobby Orr did. That's a mark of greatness, a guy that's changed things, and Bobby Orr, as you said, certainly did.
He forever did that. However, I have to agree with Barry. The man who was voted #1 is the one I would have to have voted for as well, and with delight, because this man's numbers are so unbelievable. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, the most statistically dominating player in the history of the National Hockey League. He holds 60 individual records, leading the Edmonton Oilers to those Stanley Cups in the '80s in Edmonton, the greatest offensive juggernaut that the league has ever had. His presence in Los Angeles, of course, did more to help sell the National Hockey League in the U.S. than any other thing that has probably happened in the history of the game. And, of course, the numbers and the awards, number one in the voting, Wayne Gretzky.
Well, I would certainly have voted for Wayne Gretzky, and I think apart from the numbers, which everybody sees, this guy is basically the reason there's teams all over North America. There wouldn't have been teams in Anaheim and Dallas and all these other places if Wayne Gretzky would not have went to Los Angeles and we're so successful there. This guy changed the game just like Orr, but he's such a salesman. He loves the game. Everybody loves him. He's the best player that's ever played.
All the offensive marks, of course, in the record books have 99 next to him as they belong to Wayne Gretzky. He overcame, of course, Mr. Hockey himself, Gordie Howe, to get there. The points Wayne Gretzky put up, 2,750, Howe's 1,850. That percentage of 48.5% differential is enormous. And when compared to other sports, Henry Aaron would have to have gone 755 in order to reach that Gretzky percentage difference. He'd have to have hit 1,064 home runs to have the same percentage difference ahead of Ruth that Gretzky had with Howe. If you go to the NBA, there are the leading scorers there all time. Jabbar number 1, Chamberlain number 2. If it was going to be the same differential, Jabbar would have to have scored 46,814 points to equate to Gretzky's differential. In the National Hockey League, the leading rushers, Payton and Sanders in the National Football League. If you take a look, in order to reach the differential, 20,529 yards would have to have been gained by Payton.
And the thing is, he's not done yet. He's still going to get 80, 90 points this year, and next year he still looks very good. So, special individual, great man. This is the type of guy you want your sons to grow up to be like. We've been blessed in hockey to have a lot of those men, but he is a special individual.
And that's one of the great things, I think, for those of us who are alive in this day and age. Don't forget you've got an opportunity to see the greatest player who's ever played this game. That's easy to forget.
Nobody has that chance. How many people have that chance? We have again, this guy, his numbers are never going to be broken. He changed the game. He brought the game to where it is today. The salaries, the TV contracts, he's done unbelievable things for this game.